Welcome to the least viewed video on my channel. So to entice you to watch the whole thing, I will be slowly revealing information about myself at several points with no context. Among my many accreditations is Young Adult Dystopia Connoisseur. A well-known fact about me: I find them intriguing because they are inherently carbon-dated, tackle high school melodrama and fascism with the same breath, and generally suck. This isn't a critique on you if you enjoy these films, by the way. It's good practice to separate the objective qualities of things and how much you like them. You're allowed to dislike things that you recognize as having objective merit, and likewise, you can adore things that you think absolutely no one should watch. This is a great film I don't really like. This is a great film I love. This is frankly awful. I'm embarrassed that I watched it, and I'm afraid of clowns. Uglies may very well be the perfect amalgamation of the genre, and in turn, the king of... I know this sucks, but hear me out. If you've seen a young adult dystopian film, you could almost guess the entire plot from the poster. And I know that because I did that. This is the poster. Look at that thing. Although I will say, I did get one thing wrong. I thought that the camp of lovable misfit rebels that the main character will find and grow to love would be spearheaded by a cast of colourful characters that would have some kind of visible extreme, like large ears, heterochromia, or maybe we get a little bit of a moral lesson. You know, blindness, deafness, dwarfism, people that the society thinks should be fixed despite the individual's wishes not to. However, it's a young adult dystopia made by Netflix for no money, so it is just a bunch of attractive people. In fact, the film is ironically full of, at the very least, completely passable people, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Who are these not ugly uglies? Why does this film exist? And I have a crooked nose. The general premise is the world has fallen into... Oh, that's the word. Because of fossil fuels, they call the people at this time Rusties. Never comes up again. This flour was made by scientists as a renewable resource, and every person is born ugly, not in an intentional genetic way like Divergent. People just believe it to be true. Like original sin in Christianity, but instead of Adam and Eve damning everyone forever, it's just having weird teeth. On everyone's 16th birthday, they are gifted a government-mandated cosmetic surgery, hence setting up the class warfare that the film promises. The uglies and the pretties, brilliant names aside, present as clear a boundary as possible. The young bloods in the grey clothes are the uglies, and everyone else is pretty. Couldn't be simpler. The film wastes no time going for the Best Picture nomination. After the intro exposition, we open on Joey King playing Tally Youngblood. Get it? That's what I said before. She's checking out ideas on what she wants to look like. She gets a message from her friend, whose nickname is Nose. I don't exactly remember what happened when I got to this point in the film, but it involved some degree of punching the air, high-fiving strangers on the street, all that kind of stuff. I mean, come on, they have nicknames for each other, and his is Nose. This is the Nose, by the way. It's fine. The movie was made specifically for me and no one else. Tally refers to herself as Squint because, and I'm quoting here, I'm not saying that. I know she's white, doesn't help. How did this get through a draft? Look, they're childhood friends, they sneak up to the roof under very precarious circumstances to loudly proclaim how they can't wait for the surgery and softly proclaim that they love each other. You understand everything already. It's Katniss and Pete. No, it's Katniss and the other dude. And then the other dude's... It's Hunger Games. They have matching scars because of a sentimental moment. You know, we feel it's, let's take care of each other. He has to go off first though because he's 16 and to be all beautiful by himself until she gets to join him. Unfortunately, he gets to the city and he ghosts her. Like every dude, am I right, ladies? Okay. This forces Tally to leave, I'm not using her nickname, to try and find them, which she does remarkably quickly in this massive city. And at this point, we need to talk about the pretties. Up until this point, I have obscured the pretties and focused on how normal the uglies are. That's because many of the pretties that are plot relevant look like this. Why? Does he want me to piss myself? I believe that this is intentional to make the audience dislike them on sight, like a reaction to them, except the background pretties just look like models. It's only the pretties that like get a lot of screen time that look like handsome Squidward. It looks like he could read with his eyes closed. Was this by design? Or did they not have enough money? Both are equally likely and equally funny. In the context of the film, like making it, it is strange to flavor your fascism with beauty, but also let the 16-year-olds choose what they look like, because most of the dudes would probably have like eye patches and trench coats. This scene goes exactly how you would expect. Tally's all like, we made a promise and we're secretly soulmates even though we're like 16, but he basically says, I can't relate to you because like you're too ugly. Am I right, ladies? What a guy. Just like all pigs, a lot of them. Unfortunately, she experiences one of those everyday occurrences where the alarm goes off for being too ugly and she needs to escape the party. She uses a bungee jacket, which hilariously sends you away from where you started, which is more of a trampoline vest, if anything. However, silver lining, escaping allows her to run into Shay. They quickly become best friends. Tally even says the line from Step Brothers, as I'm assuming an intentional reference, proving the film exists in universe. Shay is the cool rebel of the cohort, indicated to us by Pant. In between her allotted sessions of being nonchalant and skateboard, she dreams of meeting the fabled rebel David and joining the resistance that choose a dystopian name here. It doesn't matter, you will forget it. Shay tries to convince Tally to join her, be a moral fighter, but that would end the film too quickly, so, our girl decides to stick out the whole thing. On the day of her surgery, though, she gets called in by the leader of the city, Dr. Naya Cable, who very easily manipulates her into helping them find Shay and the Resistance in exchange for her surgery. Like, she accepts most of the information completely at face value, and it only takes a conversation afterwards with Nose to be completely down with the plan. Queen. Am I right, lady? Narratively, bit of a stretch. Comedically, the idea of teenagers being easily manipulated into being fascist because they want abs is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Speaking of abs, Nose admits that being back at the dorms made him feel something he hadn't experienced in the city. His soul. And he instantly agrees to a shady experimental procedure to help him with these feelings. At some point, this is his fault, right? Like, it has to be. Meanwhile, Tally's on a whole upbeat adventure where she discovers that she's stronger than she knew, which I figured out because this is the music playing and she's skateboarding. That sounds specific, but it's literally a copy of the I'm finding out I'm stronger than I knew scene from Amazing Spider-Man. And like the Amazing Spider-Man, after skateboarding herself into a little nap, she awakes to find the field she was in set ablaze, and it's there she meets David, who just so happens to be about her age and hot to create a love triangle for the sequels that I will be funding into production. And in my spare time, I rebind books with custom-made covers. By the way, the Resistance doesn't really have high-tech bunkers or anything, it's actually just like a commune where they farm. God, they're so cool. Also, they're burning the flowers because they're basically like weeds. What a twist. Anyway, David's parents are trying to invent the cure for the side effects of the procedure because it actually ends up dulling you a little bit. So they literally become bimbos and himbos. Like canonically, that's the movie saying that. It's after this revelation that Tally finally decides which side of the fence she's on, and we stan a queen that turns her back on fascism. But, minor point, probably should have been when you found out that they were making flowers evil. I mean, that's kind of like a corruption of something very pure. There's like 30 minutes I've left out here, but it's a bunch of scenes where they do something different and Tally's like, maybe this is pretty good and I like it, perhaps. Also, what's up with kids using their phones? There's like 3 scenes where they point this out, so it's clearly intentional, but it's also so half-assed I can't call it a theme in the film, and I have to put it somewhere. Why does he say that? There's also the cute scenes between boy and girl where they bond, but I wasn't paying attention. I was busy spending the time watching it, pretending that I didn't see it coming. Also, Tally ogles David shirtless in like his third scene. Dude, it's so obvious. Now we're at the point of the film where if you aren't yet convinced this is the best film of the year, too bad, it is. Look at this. Let's set the scene. The Pretties have found the resistance. They're called the Smoke. See? Identical to whatever name you picked. But, surprisingly, not relevant. See, they were able to swiftly quell all 30 people because of their new super soldiers, gifted with enhanced strength, speed, and the genetic inability to stop mewing at any point. Like Dragon Ball Z and Hair, this is a universe where canonically, someone's strength can be directly tied to how much plastic surgery they get. Nose basically becomes mute for the rest of the film, and every time he comes on camera, he's posing like Zoolander. It's amazing. It's the best thing ever made. Anyway, Tally's new love interest's dad dies. I think at this point they're in love. It's really important to the plot, it's why I skipped it. Everyone but David gets captured, and they destroy the research for the cure to being a himbo, also known as brain lesions, but I prefer my version. Also, Tally is outed as the reason they were found. Now, if I were, hypothetically, ratted on for trying to overthrow the government of a country like, I don't know, Austria or something, I would, hypothetically, not be very forgiving of, frankly, the coward that outed us to the police, Mike. But in the span of 3 movie minutes, or in universe 3 minutes, David is back on board, right? He's riding that train again. They make it back to the city in record time, despite it taking one whole upbeat montage last time, and this is because the screenplay needs to be done. We're filming the scene today, dude. Tally enlists the help of the people the movie wants me to call the uglies, despite looking normal, so that she and David have a diversion to get inside a highly secured facility. It's an inspiring moment of rebellion right out of a Taylor Swift music video, but as a minor note, these are perhaps the most resourceful 15-year-olds in the history of film. I'm sorry, but write these words in the sky for me is an extremely vague instruction, no matter how you look at it, yet they somehow mobilize in minutes. Some of you have to be 15, and I've been demanding tax reform for years, and honestly, it's a little pathetic it hasn't happened yet. With several vehicles deployed to, I assume, extrajudicially kill those children, our heroes can bungee in from the green screen into a location from The Thinning 2. My one true love. They free the prisoners after a weird little fight with another guy that proves you probably shouldn't choose how you look when you're 16. I don't know, maybe Twilight wasn't a phase for him. The climax is separated into 2 equally not very cool parts. One being a not very tense scene, and the other one being a not very tense fight. It turns out Shay has already been made pretty against her will. And story-wise, this is kind of an interesting dynamic, so I'm glad it happened so early in the film. Unfortunately, they're interrupted by our antagonist, who, fun fact, has appeared in about 6 scenes so far, for a total of maybe 10 minutes. She gives them the ultimatum. Get the surgery, or die. I have 2 issues with this scene. 1, they're not very good rebels if they won't die for a cause. 2, they're even worse rebels for not having what appears to be literally any kind of plan. The good doctor appears from screen left and just tells them, and this works? Roombas don't follow directions that well. I don't mean to critique the thought process of characters in a film literally no one has seen, but without exaggeration, I regularly enter my own kitchen more prepared for a fascist overlord. I'm more prepared than they are right now. I'm wearing slippers and I feel like I'm about to sneeze. Luckily, they get bailed out by their gunner, who blasts the room with some exceptionally considerate fire that makes sure to avoid Shay, but get Nose, who's next to her, and the doctor, who's even further on the other side of the room, all while making the pods hot enough to break them without actually hurting anyone inside. It's gonna win the Oscar this year, I swear to God. The second part of the climax is the fist fight on the roof. That's not very well shot, so let's pretend it's really good. Tally does try to connect with Nose, which actually seems to work, until David attacks him for basically no reason, and forces Tally to knock him off the... Damn, I guess. But not before he speaks one last time to simple... Wait, how did you get up here before the... You were on the ground last time we saw it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is also what appears to be a pretty good looking, completely CG shot with some good character animation. A complete nightmare for someone who was absolutely not paid enough. Also, for some reason, these two hover cars collide with no visible interference. Just how resourceful are these kids? Now, if you thought this movie wasn't gonna sequel bait, you've not seen Divergent. They debrief, they have the ingredients to the cure, but it might not be safe. They can't use it on Shay because she doesn't consent. Hence proving without a doubt that legislation and precedent regarding mental capacity does not exist in this universe, hence adding to its richness and its lore. Also, Tally volunteers, which proves waivers exist, another interesting implication. Anyway, she gives herself up to the police and she looks like this now. Netflix, fund the sequel. I'm asking you to fund the sequel, Netflix, and if asking does not help, consider this a threat. I should point out that, yes, despite how bad the film actually is, it's based off a book, which is fine. It's honestly a fine book. Everything in the script so far has been lifted from notes I took while watching the film, and most of the oddities I pointed out aren't actually in the book. David and Tally's romance is obviously more drawn out, with the journey back to the city to start Act 3 being longer and a significant part of the romance, and Tally only reveals that she was a spy at this moment, which makes the line about coming back because he's forgiven her actually makes sense to say. Also, instead of passively giving up, like a coward, David straight up clocks Dr. Cable. Titanically rocks her pretty little world, and steals the important medicine because he's a revolutionary with character agency. The book isn't perfect. It came out in 2005. But in an effort to condense it, the film shaves off some pretty integral edges and sometimes just makes them worse without making them shorter. It might be the best film ever. And that's it for me today. I wasn't joking. By the way, I highly recommend you watch it. A lot of it's whatever, but it's interesting that it even exists. The visual effects aren't that bad. Acting's not the worst. What were you gonna do this afternoon, huh? What else? You got no plans on? You're watching this video. Go watch it. Thanks to the fellas for supporting me. Thanks to you for watching this video. I haven't dreamt in maybe 12 years now. Alright. Bye.